Hello, everyone. My name is Solanke Abdullahi, and I'm here to present my research paper titled Explainable Digital Forensics AI Towards Mitigating Distrust in AI-Based Digital Forensic Analysis Using Interpretable Models. This is part of the research work I carried out as a PhD candidate in law, science, and technology at the University of Bologna and the University of Luxembourg. I would like to highlight that my background is kind of multidisciplinary, and it involves computer science and legal informatics. And most of my research are based on the intersection between science and law. Okay, this research work is a part of my broader research that is targeted at advancing the adoption and the application of AI in digital forensics. It aims to demonstrate the practicality of an AI-based approach to seemingly complex forensic examination for which existing tools may be inadequate, as well as the standardization and evaluation of methodologies necessary to address the confidence deficits in AI-generated evidence. Basically, my research interest intersects AI, law, and digital forensics. Also, as against all the papers that have been presented earlier, this research work might not be highly technical. It only seeks to highlight the intersection between these three components, I mean, AI, law, and digital forensics, and then to provide or recommend potential strategies to mitigate the mistrust or the skepticism about AI-based digital forensic analysis. Okay, firstly, I would like to introduce the concept of digital forensics AI as a concept that we try to contextualize in one of our previous papers, as we call it, we refer to digital forensics AI generally as all the concepts that is involved in the application of AI to digital forensics. And then we refer to it as a generic or broader concept of automated systems that encompasses the scientific and legal tools, models, methods, including evaluation, standardization, optimization, interpretability, and understandability of AI techniques deployed in digital forensics domain. I'm actually going to use this term a bit frequently in this presentation, so it is right for me to provide the proper background or the explanation or the meaning of that concept. Okay, what is the motivation behind this work? Number one, because we all understand that just like human experts may have varied opinion on the same case, machines too have been susceptible to expressing divergent viewpoints on the same scientific evidence. Therefore, there is a serious and growing concerns about the challenges or the difficulties, legal difficulties that this entails. Okay. And number two is that because there's a great need to address the complexity, the scientific arguments, the inscrutability of AI model that revolves around the deployment of AI in critical decision-making domains such as justice system, forensic investigation, etc. Okay, when AI or intelligent algorithms are used, there is a need for us to prioritize the interpretability and explanation of such algorithmic conclusions to interested parties. Also, domain-specific explainability approach is very important in digital forensics AI, and that needs to be highlighted. And then lastly, we are motivated by the fact that we can recommend some distrust mitigation techniques, particularly in the deployment of AI in digital forensics analysis. Okay, here, excuse me. Here, I conducted a systematic review of literature of explainable AI just to highlight the significance of such subject matter in AI research over the last decades. And the figure here represents the evolution of publication with title, abstract, and or keywords that refers to explainable or interpretable AI over the years. The legend here indicates the exact search terms that we use to query the Scopus database. And then from this figure, you would notice the gradual shift from interpretable AI to explainable AI. And since 2018, as we can notice, till date, explainable AI has been used as the broader concept to depict understandability and interpretability of AI in its real context. However, we can see that maybe from from 2018, interpretable AI tool is beginning to get some kind of attractions too, because people can now distinguish between the concept of explainable AI and interpretable AI. In the same vein, the second figure here highlights the number of published works using the same search parameters as the previous figure. The chart here depicts how different scientific fields apply explainable AI. And we can see that decision science as well as social science, to which I think law and digital forensics probably might lean towards, you can see that they are beginning to gradually pick up with explainable AI research systematically. Okay. Now, putting explainability and interpretability in the right perspective, we can distinguish between these two concepts through definition. On the one hand, explainability connotes the notion of explanation as a link between human and machine decision-making process. As such, explainable AI, therefore, according to Gunning in 2019, creates a suite of machine learning techniques that enable human users to understand, appropriately trust, and effectively manage the emerging generations of AI partners. On the other hand, interpretability involves the capacity to convey an explanation or meaning in a human, comprehensible manner. It's about the interpretation and comprehension of the mathematical underpinnings of how input is mapped to output in a particular AI model. And then it is contingent upon the comprehensible output, the visualizability of discriminating rules, and the conveyance of its resilience to adversarial perturbation that may impact this prediction. Okay, I provide, we can always also situate AI, the law, and the concept of explanation. We understand that courts do not produce evidence, and then they are not witness to in a court trial. The onus or the responsibility of finding evidence is on law enforcement or digital forensic experts, who is probably providing expert witness in the court case. And then when the methods used in extracting this evidence involves implicitly complex algorithms such as AI, then both parties in that trial will have one critical right, which is the right to explanation. Okay? So, excuse me. One thing that forensic experts need to be aware of is the need to approach explanation from the social science perspective. And also that AI-based digital forensic analysis should seek to exemplify some of those concepts when trying to provide explanations, because lawyers understand some of these concepts, and then they will try to provide or to try to oppose intelligence outcomes. I mean, outcomes derived from intelligence systems based on some of these facts. Number one is that explanations are contrastive. That is, explanation is occasionally expressed as a counterfactual hypothesis. For instance, if a predictive analysis classifies an image as containing a child sexual exploitation material, a balanced explanation will explain what influences such inference. And a more effective approach will try to investigate what the conclusions will be if this hypothesis is changed. So in kind of counterfactual hypothesis. That's how explanation works in the real sense of social, in the social experience. And that also should be exemplified when deploying AI in digital forensic model. Number two is that explanation is often selective. Most frequently, it is influenced by cognitive biases. An extensive analysis of a causal event is rarely provided logically, but rather a few selected causal events are chosen to explain an infinite number of causal events. This is already finding its way into some or mostly all the explainable AI methods that I have reviewed. And then number three is that explanation is rarely probabilistic, which means that using explanation based on probabilities or statistical correlation as general justification for the occurrence of an event might not be effective unless we accompany that by a typical explanation why or to provide a semantic explanation of such probabilistic outcomes. Also is the fact that explanations are social, that is, it is given in a conversational or interactive manner. and it's expressed by the offerer, that is, who is given the explanation in light of its belief of the audience. I mean, regarding the belief of the audience. So an explanation can be offered, of course, as an example. It can be offered as rules, or it can be offered as codified knowledge bases, as seen in expert systems. Okay. I also try to provide some very few concerns about closed box models and their corresponding explanation that could potentially impact the admissibility of AI-based forensic analysis in a legal proceeding. Number one is, okay, closed box systems here means systems that are incomprehensible to human. Number one is, yeah, fine, AI systems work, they do work. That is very evident in some systems in a variety of ways that they have been deployed over the years. They work accurately, and they've provided significant and very promising results in many cases. But then explanation is as important as the model itself. A very good model with very strong accuracy results that is deficient in explanation will still mean nothing in the eyes of the law. It also means that if a model explanation is 90% accurate, most of the time, it still means that 1/10 of the time it is still inaccurate, which is a very significant problem in law. Explanation must be 100% representative of the model it's trying to explain. Another worrying trend in the provision of explanation is the provision of explanation primarily for correctly classified labels, which could lead to misrepresentation in this case. An excellent use case is the issue of silencing map. A silencing map is a visual representation of an image, an area in an image that is most likely noticeable. The fact is, with majority of explainable methods, explanation given for each class in a silencing map is mostly identical. That is based on observation. And then even the incorrect ones have mostly identical explanation. That is quite disturbing in the approach of explainable methods that we have right now. And then this can actually provide some kind of adversarial effect in court cases. Also, research has shown that deep learning models can learn counterintuitive and erroneous solutions despite their expressiveness. A particular research showed how minor but deliberate and undetectable adversarial perturbation, just like a noise, was introduced into a model. And it caused a model that has previously predicted 57% predicted correctly with 57% confidence level. This adversarial perturbation caused it to now predict with accuracy level of about 99%. That is some kind of gaming, provided on these training models, and then the system couldn't actually detect it. In the same vein, a calculated perturbation introduced in an autonomous vehicle system caused it to interpret a stop signal as speed limit of 45 mph. Another worrying concern is the fact that machines may augment their operating parameters in an unexpected way, possibly because of training sets that are insufficient or few, that may not be representative of the use case. A particular use case, or for an example, is a crime detection system installed in a surveillance camera which recognizes 3 handshakes as a possible narcotic transaction. Yes, often this is logical in the research based on training sets, but then this system risks the possibility of missing out on potential transaction or narcotic transaction if the handshakes are not up to 3. Like if the dealers, decide to just take once, maybe the systems might this system might not be able to detect that. Some of those things can actually provide a lot of counterfactual situation in court. Imagine lawyers providing some of those things as the reason for the court not to admit some digital forensic analysis that are based on AI. So these are some of the concerns, actually. Okay. So I try to conceptualize explainable digital forensic AI by situating it with the normal concept of explainable AI. And I provide this definition as that explainable digital forensic AI is an AI-based digital forensic method that provide explicit and intelligible rationale for its function and the specifics of its inferential reasoning. So what does the goal of explainable DFAI entails, or the goals that a typical explainable DFAI method should try to pursue? Number one, is trustworthiness. That is, it should be 100% of the time trustworthy. That is, it should have the ability to act as expected at every time in any given context. It should be able to intuitively explain its causal relationship between heterogeneous or observed artifacts. It should be reproducible, that is, and be able to explicitly elucidate its method. It should also be able to represent probabilistic output in a semantic manner. Also, it should be fair. It should be the confidence level of XDFA high should be very high. Yes, although confidence is expressible, it is expressed based on whoever is given this explanation and people who are receiving this explanation. So XDFA high should portray fairness. That is, it should adhere to the principles of ethics, the rights to be informed, and the rights to contest decisions. And then also it should be accessible. That is, maybe through open sourcing or peer review. Okay. So in this work, I try to link towards interpretable DFA high as opposed to explainable DFA high because of this reason, because interpretability provides answers not only to the question of what was predicted, but also the question of why such predictions were made in terms of counterfactual in this sense, counterfactual hypothesis in this sense. And then by incorporating interpretable features into DFA high, it is possible to harmonize and update gaps in domain knowledge. Also, interpretable models can help to determine the cause of error and recommend possible solutions. Interpretable models can ensure simulatability. It can ensure decomposability. It also can ensure that an algorithm is transparent, which is typical of, which is very necessary in an inquisitorial trial. Although the cost of building interpretable model could be very high, but certainly it is less expensive than having a flawed outcome that could inculpate or exculpate the wrong suspect. Okay, in this case, I provided a particular mind variable kind of framework that represents what explainable DFA high should look like. Of course, yeah, it must be interpretable, and the interpretable methods must be either model agnostic or model specific. With model agnostic, it could, it means that if one is trying to use the model agnostic approach, then the methods, explainable method in this case, might be very independent of the structure of the system. It is less impactful on the performance, and it is mostly provided post-op. That is, explanation in model agnostic case is often provided, after the model has been trained. However, the model specific, in the model specific case, this one is often restricted. It is applicable to special algorithms, and then performance may be impacted in this case when one is using a model specific. Although, based on the research that I conducted, I gravitate toward interpretable models, which is or model specific model in this case than the post-hoc explanation, post-hoc interpretable methods. I may not be able to explain some of this concept in full details because of time here, actually, but this represents the kind of framework that XDFA high or interpretable DFA high should try to model, actually. And then when you have this model set up, then one can apply it to any of AI-based digital forensic application that one may need to analyze, such as pattern recognition or text or speech analysis or image or multimedia forensics analysis. So also in this research work, I provided a detailed explanation or some of the existing tools for explainable AI and their potential applicability to digital forensic analysis, and where some of these tools might actually be significant in digital forensic analysis. I separated them based on model agnostic or model specific cases. So the details can be seen in the paper, actually. So also, majorly in this research work, I try to give recommendations that could help to mitigate some of the mistrust or the skepticism about the deployment of AI in digital forensics. Number one is to first try to contextualize the scenario to which this forensic case is applicable. I mean, one should try to contextualize the potential impact, the available tools, and the domain knowledge expertise. And decisions should be made whether one wants to use existing a pre-existing algorithm or one wants to develop a new one. So one should actually contextualize the use case or the kind of the complexity of the analysis one wants to carry out before deciding on the approach to actually use. Another consideration is to consider most of the time it shouldn't be the case of when I have a hammer, everything becomes a nail. That is, one should contextualize or consider using less sophisticated, non-opaque, interpretable evidence mining techniques like linear or logistic models, decision trees, case-based reasoning. Of course, there are cases where some of these linear models might not be applicable, or they might be too shallow, might not be representative of such use case, and then there will be need to use nonlinear deep learning models, such as maybe when one wants to do image analysis, or maybe video or speech analysis. Normally, linear models might not be actually useful in such a case. So when one needs to do that, it is necessary to check to make sure that whatever approach one wants to use is fit for purpose. One can also assess the impact of the decision, that is the outcome. One can should be able to assess the impact of that decision, and then it must be able to address the need of the audience in terms of interpretability. And one should be able to contextualize the kind of counterfactual explanation or adversarial hypothesis that could be provided in courts that will make such approach inadmissible. And also approaches that would use AI or digital forensic analysis that would use AI should be able to modularize the algorithms. Most often, when we're analyzing based on AI algorithms, some aspect of this analysis might not be AI dependent. We should be able to segment the AI part from the non-AI part, although there are some of the pre-processing steps that might actually want to look like AI. Like, for instance, if one is trying to analyze based on topic modeling is some sort of AI, but then they are very explainable because they involve just some kind of Bayesian networks. And then mostly some NLP approach, I mean, natural language processing approach might be AI in nature, but some of those techniques are actually very explainable. So one should be able to modularize, because that will help to adequately provide some kind of explanation when that is required. Also, digital forensic as a service is projected to be the future or impact the future of forensic science in the long run. But then in the case of digital forensics AI, which may be deployed as digital forensic as a service, it means that online learning or transfer learning might be very applicable in such a case. One should be very careful about the deployment in such a case, because for transfer learning or online learning, it might be very uneasy to control the working parameters of the models. So one needs to be very careful or exercise caution about such deployment. And then there should be consideration for hybridization. Symbolic algorithms such as linear mode, case-based reasoning, the expert system, the traditional expert system, they represent symbolic algorithms. And they are quite interpretable in the real sense, and they could be very, very useful when it comes to analysis of digital forensics, actually. But then they might be very shallow or inefficient when it comes to their capacity to learn complex patterns, where sub-symbolic algorithms might be required. So in such a case, there could be hybridization. We should begin to look at hybridization of some of this, both of this concept, and also then we should consider having a man in the loop, a human in the loop that tries to verify some of these components, at each level. Also, generative models are quite explainable in my opinion, although generative models such as GAN might be a bit complex, or variational autoencoder, which are generative models, but they provide some kind of latent features which one can follow to really understand how a model is being trained from input to output. So there's some kind of AI approach that one can use when it comes to analysis of digital forensics, which could be quite or a little bit explainable in the real sense. So I provided a kind of a typical structure of what an interpretable DFA model should look like, from the concept of the normal or the traditional forensic, conventional forensic processes, then to the deployment of the AI models, and then the incorporation of the interpretable model to explanation to the audience, and then general conclusion. This is a kind of a structure that represents, the total framework of this interpretable DFA model. So in conclusion, in this work, basically this work tries to outline and provide the preconceptualization of the notion of explainable DFA high, while envisaging that, that as research continues, a more precise definition of this concept will be developed. And then I reviewed explainable AI technologies and highlighted the most relevant ones that could be advantageous for various forensic investigation tasks. And lastly, I proposed a couple of recommendations that could assist in de-escalating the fear associated with AI-based digital forensic analysis. And I tried to, in such a way that could bridge the trust gap between stakeholders and machine-generated inferences for legal processes. So, okay, thank you. This is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you.